Hi, I'm Neil Oseman and welcome to the Dark Side Guides. Here I'll be sharing some of the things I learnt during the wallet-crunching, heart-palpitating process of making my 35mm pilot for the Dark Side of the Earth. If, like me, your background is in micro-budget films shot entirely on location, the prospect of building a set can be daunting. But if you do it well, it can increase your production values enormously, not to mention making the shooting process so much easier by eliminating weather, transport, background noise and recalcitrant location owners, whilst allowing your DOP the flexibility to put their lights and camera exactly where they want them. The first thing you'll need, of course, is a design, and while pretty production illustrations are great for attracting cast and crew, you'll need clear and detailed blueprints drawn up in a CAD package to actually build from. Use cardboard models to pre-visualize the set well in advance. You may wish, like I did, to put a small camera into the model and try out camera angles. Naturally, you'll want to keep the size of the set down for cost reasons, but don't shoot yourself in the foot. If you have any concerns about the space being big enough for the action that has to take place in it, do rehearsals and tape out the boundaries of the set on the floor. In this way, we discovered that we needed to increase the size of our training room set a little. Next, you'll need somewhere to build and shoot the set. Of course, the size of stage you can get is another factor affecting the size of your set. Remember that you'll need a lot of room around the finished set for the camera and lighting equipment, plus space to keep standby props, the craft services table, maybe makeup and costume corners if you haven't got separate rooms for those. If you build your set right up to the studio walls, apart from being in breach of fire regulations, you'll find yourself just as hampered when you come to shoot as if you were on location. You'll need to hire a workshop on the same site, otherwise you'll have to start hiring lorries to move the set around. Again, when choosing a workshop, don't underestimate how much space all those set pieces are going to take up. We were lucky at HDS Studios that no one minded us spilling out into the corridor and moving some pieces into the stage earlier than we were supposed to, otherwise we would have been hellishly tight for space. Try sweet-talking one of the major studio complexes into a deal. If that fails, you may have to think outside the box a little. HDS is an ex-TV studio that's now semi-abandoned and is hired out like a location. We also considered rehearsal venues, but remember that you're going to be making a lot of mess and that ideally you want to be able to fix the set to the floor, otherwise things will get complicated as you try to weigh down and brace your set. Before you move into the workshop, the studio will want to see evidence of your public and employer's liability insurance. You may also be asked to provide a risk assessment. Forms and templates for these are available online and are fairly easy to fill in with a bit of common sense. There's one more thing you need before you can start: a bunch of suckers to actually do all the hard graft. Mandy.com is probably the best place to advertise. If you're paying nothing or next to nothing, you'll struggle to get people who will turn up day after day for the whole construction period. So keep re-advertising and be prepared for a high turnover of workforce. 1 or 2 of your crew can be general helpers, but for the most part you'll need people with experience in carpentry. Enthusiastic filmmakers might seem like attractive candidates, but as a breed we're not the most practically minded, so try to get a few folks on board from outside the industry, with sound experience of building things that aren't going to fall down. Crucially, you'll need someone to supervise the construction. Your production designer should be keeping an eye on the creative side of things, but you won't get very far without a dedicated construction manager. They're like the first AD of the set build, keeping things moving to schedule and making sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to. We were lucky enough to get Gus Wookie, a seasoned professional who came with all the tools we needed, plus all the other stuff that's easily forgotten in the planning stages, like workbenches, bins and first aid kits. So, the first day of the build has arrived. You've set up the workshop, the crew are raring to go, time to go out and buy some wood. Your construction manager will know the best places to get the materials you need and may even be able to swing you some deals. If you set up a limited company to make your film through, and you're therefore able to claim all the VAT back on your purchases, you'll really start to feel the benefit when you rock up at B&Q's trade counter. If you're shooting at a busy studio complex, see if any other productions are striking their sets, and if so, ask if they mind you taking some of that wood off their hands. By this point, your build will have ground to a halt if you don't have access to a van. A long wheelbase transit is the minimum requirement here. A Luton is ideal. An enthusiastic crew member with their own van will save you a lot of money in hire fees. This brings us to travel and catering. If your workshop doesn't come with them, you'll need to install a microwave, toaster and kettle at the minimum, and keep the supplies of tea, coffee and biscuits at a good level at all times. For lunches, the Darkside Art Department had to live on Sainsbury's ready meals most days, with the occasional meal out for morale boosting. About halfway through your construction period, you should have enough pieces built to merit bringing your paint crew on board. Your painters will also texture your set, which will involve using a variety of techniques to make the wood look like other materials. Try to blag as much paint as you can. We obtained a lot of ours free from Homebase, who throw out cans and cans of the stuff whenever a line is discontinued. Perhaps a week before the shoot starts, you'll want to move the set into the studio and start assembling it. Don't forget to factor this in when booking your workshop and studio time. Your set should ideally be finished on the penultimate day of the build, leaving the art department with a day to dress it. Hiring props isn't as expensive as you might think and can really help bring your set to life. The job of the art department doesn't end when the camera starts rolling, nor even when it stops, because now this thing of beauty you've all spent weeks labouring on has to be destroyed. What you should do, however, is keep a few small pieces, enough to fill the background of a medium close-up if you find in post-production that you need to shoot pickups. So make sure your art department can stick around for an extra day, or you can rope in some help from elsewhere to strike the set and load it into the skips. Only when the last skip's been collected and the last wood shaving's been swept away has the job of the art department come to an end. So, how much did all this cost? Here's how it stacked up on the dark side of the earth. Remembering this is just for one set, which was only shot for 3 days. I got 3 weeks workshop hire and 2 weeks studio hire, which included the shoot, for £2,500, plus a security deposit of £1,000. Construction materials and consumables, £2,180. Paint and texturing materials, £345. Dressing hire and purchase, £440. A couple of key items in the set were made for us externally, namely the breakaway windows and the carved rack tape crest. Those came to £365. Construction crew catering, £775. Construction crew travel, £1,175. 1 or 2 crew members required accommodation, which came to £205. We briefly hired a van before the build started to move some wood we'd blagged. That was £30. And finally, skip hire, £940. That's a grand total of £8,995 plus VAT. I've left off insurance since that came as a package with the shoot, and don't forget to add tool hire costs if your crew don't come with everything that's needed. So building a set isn't cheap, but for me it was worth every penny to take my audience on a journey to a Victorian fantasy world. Where will you take your audience? Good luck!